Welcome. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Common Thread Church and welcome to Lent. I believe we are in our we're in our third week of Lent. Apologies, I'm always downstairs. We don't have Lent downstairs. We have chips instead. So again, welcome. And a special welcome to all newcomers, whether you're here for the first time or you've been coming for a few weeks or for a few months. If you are here, you belong. Because we are a church that gathers and organizes around relationships. We find and seek to support one another on this spiritual journey around questions instead of around answers in the spiritual life. So you newcomers, you are our life's blood. You keep us renewing our answers and our questions together. You keep us practiced in the art of welcoming the stranger. So again, welcome. And if you would like to receive our welcome email, if you would like to meet with someone, sit down, ask some questions about our community, please use the email or the QR code, and we will give you everything you need in order to find your way into our community. We are also a community that believes the spiritual journey requires mutual support and companionship. So if you could use some of that these days, please reach out or come on down to the library after the service this morning at 11:30. There will be a listener posted at the doorway. I don't know actually who's doing it today. If that person's in the room, would you raise your hand? It's John. Thank you, John. So John will be there to act as the listener today if you would like to meet with him. All of our listeners have been trained in the self-awareness practice at our church, and they are ready to sit with you. So again, and let us affirm here in a moment when the mic comes back on that we are so glad to be together. And we would like to speak out loud to one another again, as we do every week, the nature of our commitment to one another. If you are here, you belong. We are, every one of us, carriers of the inner light. We are, every one of us, carriers of divine breath. And I invite you to rise and greet one another and pass the peace if you are so inclined.
So welcome, friends, to the third Sunday of Lent. And as we mentioned a few weeks ago, it is helpful to think of mercy as less something God gives us and more something God is. This God who so loved the world, that the world, the cosmos, all that is, even in all its diversity, cannot be separate from God, which means we cannot be separate from each other. Two-ness is a thing, but love running through our oneness is ultimate reality. So, let's all take a deep breath together as one. Let's find a comfortable place in our bodies, in our hearts, and in our minds. And as Joe and Melissa get ready to lead us in our Kyrie, let's enter into a contemplative space here and prepare to swim in mercy as in an endless sea.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie
eleison.
19. The heavens declare the glory of God. The earth is where God is manifest. One day tells its tale to another. One night imparts knowledge to another. Although they have no words or language, their voices are not heard. Their sound has gone out into all the lands, and their message to the ends of the world.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie
Kyrie
eleison.
eleison.
Christe eleison. Christe eleison. Christe eleison. Christe eleison. Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie,
Kyrie,
Kyrie eleison.
So the welcome prayer is an on-the-go practice where in moments of afflictive emotion or surges of energy, we consciously choose to pause so as not to unconsciously react. We consent to divine presence and action in our lives, and we let go. We welcome the reality of what is, and we let go. We surrender to the things we might want to change, and we let go of our desire to change them. And we are practicing this today so that we can strengthen our ability to turn to this practice in those moments when we need them. Remember, there are resources in the Church Center app if you're new to this or want to be guided through it throughout the week. And the practice, I'm going to remind you, is very simple. First, we observe without judgment what we are feeling. Second, we welcome those feelings as they come. And third, we let go of our compulsive desires for control, for safety, for affection, and of the desire to change the situation. We simply surrender and embrace what is. So first, let's again close our eyes and take a few deep breaths. Let's breathe in and exhale. Breathe in and exhale. Breathe in and out. Now see if you can call to mind an afflictive emotion from this past week. Maybe you struggled with patience in the grocery store. Maybe someone falsely accused you of something. Maybe you lashed out at a coworker or a friend or someone in your family. What did you feel when this happened? What was going on in your body? What were you thinking? Just sit with that for a moment. And say silently to what you were feeling, sensing, or thinking, welcome. Welcome impatience. Welcome defensiveness. Welcome rage. Welcome, whatever it is, welcome. Once you feel as if you've truly welcomed the reality of what is without resistance, see if you can let go of the compulsive desires around it. I let go of my compulsive desire for power and control. Welcome. I let go of my compulsive desire for safety and security. Welcome. I let go of my compulsive desire for esteem and affirmation. Welcome. And I let go of my compulsive desire to change the situation. Welcome. I let go of power and control. I let go of safety and security. I let go of esteem and affirmation. I let go of my desire to change things. Welcome. 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 And now let's take a few moments to reflect on what's on our hearts this morning. And if you'd like to share it with us all, just raise your hand and request the microphone, or feel free to reflect silently in your heart. Henry has the microphone and he will bring it to you. And Either way, let's commit today to holding all of what is on everyone's heart in this community, in our collective heart as a community. I'd like to begin by holding up our fellow Common Thread member, Michael McKenzie, who is presently doing really good work, serving with AmeriCorps in Iowa, far away from us. May he feel God's love and the love of this community holding him up while he is away.
I want to thank the community for creating this space in which to practice this, because last week I did lose a couple hours of my life to my compulsive need to change the situation. But I did know what was happening the entire time, and within 24 hours I was better. And that wouldn't have been true a few years ago. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I'm holding Morgan Kerr in my heart and for the things that she's working through and the challenges she has right now.
Indwelling Divine, may we continue to be a community that bears each other's burdens and celebrates each other's joys. May we hold all of which has been spoken aloud here today and held in the silence of our hearts together. In love, amen.
Bless the inner light and help me to consent. Bless the inner light and lead me into light. Bless the inner light and help me to consent. Bless the inner light and lead me into light. Bless the inner light and help me to consent. Bless the inner light and lead me into light. It is love that redeems all our faults, that heals every one of our ills, that restores new life from the grave, that gives us sweet grace and compassion. Bless the inner light and help me to consent. Bless the inner light and lead me into light. Benedicite interiorem lucem. Benedicite
We have a few announcements here this morning, as we do just about every morning. So after the service today, if you're online watching live, we'd love to have you join What Are You Thinking on Zoom. Doug will share more about that later. And if you are here in the room, today is the first of 3 sessions Robin is presenting called The Enneagram Levels of Development. Today is to help gut folks like me, or those who love people like me, understand the core lies that unconsciously drive our behavior. And that'll be downstairs in the teen room after the service.
And we are very lovable.
Very lovable. We are very lovable people. That's right.
Once you understand how.
Yeah, so you might want to go learn. This afternoon, come on out to Nickel Point Brewing. Have a beer or a beverage of your choice at Brew Crew. This Thursday evening is the one-week annual meeting at St. Ambrose Episcopal Church. We'd love to have a good showing from Common Thread that evening. You need to register, so you'll get that information, what I tell you about in a minute. The Artsy group meets next Saturday. Centering prayer will be in the contemplation room before the service, and after we'll have the second session of the Enneagram Levels of Development. The Easter egg hunt, I think that's the next slide, yeah. The Easter egg hunt is planned for March 24th after the service, and we need both donations and volunteers. And if you are able to make a donation to fill the eggs, just go to this QR code and you can sign up to do that. And if you are willing to volunteer, I am not sure what all that entails, but it's an Easter egg hunt, it's for the kids. How hard can it be? So we're not asking you to make a firm commitment. Haven knows what this entails, so you tell us, yeah.
We need volunteers. We've only got one so far. It is literally if you're going to be here for it and you want to stand by the bubble station, Easter egg hunt. We have someone to hide for the teens already, but we need somebody. Please go sign up.
We need people to guard the eggs so other people don't take
That happened last year. The eggs were gone last year.
By like 12:30 or 1, right?
Sorry?
What time are we wrapping up? Like 12:30, 1, something like that? Yeah. It's a short commitment.
If you would,
You're just going to watch the kids enjoy an Easter egg.
it's going to be fun. I mean, everybody's going to want to do this. So who wants to do this? Raise your hand. Jack's going to get your name. Oh, look, Doug's going to do it. All right, raise your hand. Jack is going to take your name down. If you'll just kind of keep your hand up as we go through the rest of the announcements, he will get who you are. Thank you so much for being willing to do that. I just ran through a bunch of things here without too many details, as usual. So if you want more details, you know where to find them. You can find them in the app, on the website, or in the weekly email. Subscribe if you haven't yet, if you want to have the information come to you. So this is my friend Kate. And
Kate.
there you go. If you have been here for any length of time, I bet Kate is your friend too. She's a rock star. She manages the Church Center app, the directory, the calendar, so many of the things we need doing in order to be the kind of community we want to be. And Kate is a volunteer. Her day job is as an associate professor of Spanish at Wake Tech, and she runs her own Spanish teaching business, and she's also raising an amazing kid. And I say all of this because Kate is so kind, and she's so helpful, and she's so talented, and we can sometimes make the mistake of thinking she's available to us full-time when she isn't. And I know I've slipped up on that count myself a time or two. So I wanted to let everyone know we have a new protocol in place if you need anything from Kate. Information, scheduling, whatever it might be. If you have a request for calendaring, getting in the directory, or figuring out the app, you're going to the right place if you reach out to Kate. But going forward, please refrain from texting her about church business because it gets very confusing. I'm sure you can understand how that is. And instead, just send her an email or use the contact form on the website. And as far as working in real time, Kate will only be available on Tuesdays and Fridays between 9 and 2 p.m. So she won't be responding to any inquiries on the days between them until she's on the clock. So if you have some sort of calendaring or directory emergency and need a response sooner than Kate can give you one, reach out to me. I am not sure what would constitute a calendaring or directory emergency, but we'll begin to figure out what that might be if anyone reaches out with one. And you can, of course, find me in the directory. So on Friday, Jen sent out a financial report in a new format, and that's one that we hope is clear and helps you see the bigger picture in terms of where your money goes at Common Thread. And as you can see in that email, we're under budget, but also it's the best January we've ever had. And we knew we wouldn't get to the level of giving of an average church overnight, but all indications are we're headed in the right direction. So thank you for your generosity. As we always say, there is a good return on investment in this spiritual community, and we believe that return is only going to get better as we grow. So when we give our time, our energy, our love, and the dollars it takes to make it all go, the community takes those gifts and amplifies them, gives them back to us in the form of a space where we can spiritually grow and thrive. And we are in this together, and I can't imagine a group of people with whom I'd rather be in anything together than this one.
Here, here.
So thank you, thank you, thank you. So one of the really cool things Joe and Melissa have been doing lately is reclaiming, well, and Shelby too, reclaiming old familiar church tunes and working in new, more common thread appropriate lyrics. And a lot of this has been with the Taizé chants. And this is a tune you might recognize from an old church you attended. We didn't have to change the lyrics on this one at all, but the song is Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, but the words are a little bit different than what you might remember. So enjoy.
So this song has 3 verses, and then after the 3rd verse, the first verse repeats. And we'd like to invite you to join us on that last verse, and let's sing it all together.
I was lost in utter darkness. I was trapped in toxic shame. I was bound by my religion till I chose to make a change. Now I'm finding my true colors. For the first time, I feel free. Now I'm learning self-compassion. As I heal, I'm finding peace. I kept others at a distance, those who live life differently, saw the world in right or wrong, but they're all human just like me. I stepped out and love expanded us and then melted away. Beauty found in every difference. As I listen, I'm amazed. I saw danger in my questions. I took captive all my thoughts. Certainty was my salvation till I questioned what was taught. Now my eyes are wide in wonder, mine set free now to discern. I might not have all the answers, but I have all this life to learn. lost in utter darkness. I was trapped in toxic shame. I was bound by my religion till I chose to make a change. Now I'm finding my true colors. For the first time I feel free. Now I'm learning self-compassion. As I heal, I'm finding peace.
Well, that was lovely. So, this morning I had an experience as we were doing the welcoming prayer, and it was the sensation of being with an old and dear friend, because I remembered the use of that practice over years and years and years of my life, and it felt like I had been on a long journey with this companion, been through adventures with this companion, faced heartaches, and overcame obstacles with this companion, and I just savored it and appreciated it. And then I heard the song, and I thought, where'd those lyrics come from? Did you write them?
I did not.
Who fixed them?
I don't know. Somebody did. We found
Damn,
it fixed.
that was my life. So today I've been savoring long companionship on this journey. Before we begin the lesson, having nothing to do with our lesson today, I'd like to tell you about a book that I'm listening to right now. I'm liking it a great deal because I love context. I love understanding the bigger picture, and this is the bigger picture of how spirituality, a long dismissed part of brain research, a long dismissed part of psychological research, is actually built into the way our brains function. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff about how fMRI scans work, but there's also a bunch about what happens to our brains when we awaken to the spiritual life. And so if you like that kind of thing, I would recommend the book to you. Now, you won't hear anything in the book that isn't already part of the spiritual tradition and has been for millennia, but you know, brain scans makes it cooler. So, also if you've got teenagers, and also if you've faced depression, I think you might find it a helpful book. So, it's called, by the way, The Awakened Brain. Lisa Miller is the author. It's an intermittent lesson this year, bite-sized bits stitched together to take us through to the election in November. A step-by-step process of becoming the kind of people this moment in history needs us to be part of the solution in an authentic way, as opposed to what happens so often, even though we have best intentions, even though we can't see it ourselves, how unconsciously we might, even with our best efforts, blindly go along with the norms around us and be reinforcing the problem. How do we become not those people and people who can be part of the solution? So there's 5 steps I talked about. We're on the second right now, and we're looking at here now, small doable things we can do, things we can do today that if we will do today, make it possible to do tomorrow what we cannot yet do. So step 1, we saw how meditation helps us develop love for self, which, according to Jesus, and according to a whole bunch of psychological research, is the foundation for pretty much everything that comes after that. If you missed that, you can check it out online. Step 2, I've described it as becoming better friends. The words Jesus used were, love your neighbor as you love yourself. His words have substantially more gravity than mine, but becoming better friends, as mundane as it is. I chose the mundane on purpose because something as doable as learning how to intentionally, with purpose, become a better friend seems like, oh yeah, I could do that. But here's what we've seen. If we do that, if we become better at being friends, it has an outsized impact on our lives and our souls and our spiritual journey, not to mention what happens within the context of restitching the torn fabric of community. So, these were a couple of fine, fine lessons, people, full of rich wisdom from the ancient tradition, as well as philosophers and brain scientists, good, fine lessons. We don't often consider how something as everyday as becoming better friends leads us into inner transformation, or how it awakens us to oneness, and how it, the better description of reality than two-ness we talk about all the time. Well, now we're into the tail end of the second part, and I'd like to start today with a story, which is actually a compilation of several stories that people have told me recently. So imagine with me a man in his 30s. His name is Matthew. It's been a decade since college. When he was in college, he had a group of friends, but now his career is doing what careers do, time and energy. And he loves having a spouse, he loves having a child, in fact, thinking about having another, but again, those things come with time and energy. And as time and energy, old network of friends, much less frequently connecting, and new friends not really happening. You're probably familiar with the territory. Matthew's not alone, it's a thing. What's different about Matthew is that he's recognized and he has named his dilemma. He's explored how his current deficit of friends is creating an interior state that he doesn't want. He's projected that deficit out into the future, and he's imagined how much a life of not becoming better friends is going to impoverish him. So, at some interior space inside where we make our decisions, Matthew has determined this will not do. Now, Matthew is particularly fortunate because his brilliant minister has brilliantly extolled to him the transcendent glories of becoming better friends, and has highlighted how bringing intention and purpose to becoming better friends is also a process that, if we will participate in this process, will also make us better human beings. So, Matthew's motivated. And Matthew wants to become the kind of person who can be a better friend, and he wants the enrichment that accrues to us there, and he wants the deepened spiritual awareness that we experience there. But here's the rub. How? Come on, clever preacher man, when in my life that's already overly full is that supposed to happen? How in the world is this thing that I can't imagine going to become part of my life? I said in the Thursday email, nobody doesn't want to be better friends, but the devil is in the details. And those are a couple of doozy details: when and how. Our society is not facing a friendship deficit because we're dumb. There are real factors that stand in the way. It's the soup that we all swim in that has been constructed out of our collective Western instincts and the social structures that we've built on top of those collective Western instincts. So it is a problem, and it is not just a problem for people who live in Matthew's age group. Our friendship deficit starts in our nation quite young. A recent article in the Atlantic Monthly highlighted how our social instincts are also impacting our kids. For a few generations now, our children have been spending increasingly every few years, more so, less time with their friends. They have been making collectively fewer friends in general. They have less time to spend with their friends than they had 10 and 20 and 30 years ago. So it is a problem, and it is a problem that we all deal with. But Matthew, having been in the community, has heard our mantra. When we face big, overwhelming, daunting issues, what we don't do is nothing. But we also don't do more than we can do. what we do is, here now, small doable. That's the thing that we do when we face these overwhelmingly large issues. So recently, in keeping with Here Now Small Doable, Matthew spent 30 minutes one evening making a list. This was a list of people that he could imagine building friendship with. He went through his work directory, went through the church directory, went through his contacts, thought through his neighborhood, and he found 2 potential friends from his old network that he could rekindle and begin working on becoming better friends with. And he found 4 potentials of people that he liked, that he thought he could possibly be better friends with. Took him 30 minutes, here now, small, doable. Now the next week, he spent another 30 minutes, did it twice. And this time, he interspersed those sit down and make a list exercises with conversations in which he started picking other people's brains, and he did those in between. This time, the list was things that he could do, things that would fit into his life, things that were doable, time slots that could possibly work, places that he could possibly go and be with friends, things that included his child on the weekends, things that included Zoom calls when in person was not possible, or monthly when weekly was not possible. And he created a whole list of very practical things that he could do in those time slots, things that if he were to do those would start building a network of friendships. So on his list, he just wrote down that some Sunday he's going to make himself stay after for 10 minutes and try to institute a conversation and see how that goes. That's a here now, small, doable kind of thing. Also on the list, practice up using form, F-O-R-M. If you're not familiar with form, it's been a while since I reviewed it. Here's what it means. It is a series of get-to-know-you questions that if you ask, by the end, you will know someone better. You ask about, tell me about your family. Who are your people? Where do you live? What do you do? Occupation. Tell me about your job. Tell me about the thing you do with your time. What goes on? Tell me recreation. What do you do that you enjoy? Meaning, what matters to you? What are you after in life? What are the things you want? And by the way, don't feel bad using FORM in our community because you know that everybody knows what you're doing. Because what we are also doing is knowing why we do it. We are doing that with one another because when we do ask the get to know you questions, we are saying you are worth getting to know. Community is worth working on and building, and that's a very convenient too. So Matthew wrote down a series of form questions, F-O-R-M. He also had added other questions to it that he got from a Google search that made it easier, more authentic, felt more like him. So he's got questions for getting to know people, and he's got spaces he can go to start practicing those questions. He wrote down for later, one of these days, I'm going to ask somebody to meet me at some church event because that way I'll be sure and I go, and that way I'll get to know somebody while I'm there. And he started picking people's brains. That was very helpful for him. And he's got a whole list of things that he could do. Just as an aside, GPT, even more helpful. You can't read this yet, but as a question put into GPU that says, create a list for me of things that introverts do that create a network of authentic friendships. Look at all that stuff. I mean, that's good. But it wasn't very practical, so it was a follow-up prompt that came after that. Okay, give me some activities that people do to go along with. And all of a sudden, he got 25 things. It took him all of 42 seconds. But now, of all that list, maybe 25 things, only 2 were really relevant to Matthew. Only 2 did he extract. But that's 2 things. 2 things that came out of that just handed to him. I did another prompt just to see. It said, okay, how about if I'm 35 years old and I have an odd fascination with model trains? And sure enough, GPT is here to help. Here now, small, doable. There are no shortage of tools to help us come up with the options from which we can choose to begin to do the kinds of things that will help us become better friends. So Matthew made a plan, and then he scheduled his plan. He's going to visit this list, all of his lists, every Monday and every Friday. He's going to do it as he thinks about his week coming up. He's going to do it as his weekend's coming up. And so that's his plan. Again, here now, small, doable. Now that's as far as Matthew has gotten, but that is no small thing. He has discerned a deep human desire that he carries within. It is something real, and it is something profound that we carry within. And then he has moved forward on that deep and real desire, and he's made a plan, also no small thing. And because he did discern the thing, the desire, make the plan, the likelihood that he will build a network of friendship, will be able to have a context, a space in which he can work on better friends, that the odds of that go way, way up. But there's a couple of things I'd like to highlight in Matthew's story. Nope. We'll just leave it on there for a while. But you know where we're going, the two-step dance. The first is his plan was to gather a network of friends. And of course, that's where we start. We create the space where we can work on becoming better friends. But there's a good chance in this community you've done that part. Our community works really hard to help one another get into friendships. So maybe you have, or you're very close to having created that network around you. So when we start the better part of building better friendships, now we think about the next phase, and it also is going to need a plan. There is no one way to start working on becoming better friends. We will each choose our own way. It's more of a listen for the interior nudge endeavor than it is a here's the right answer endeavor. Keeping in mind as we do it, it's got to be here now, small, doable, it's got to fit into our lives, keep that in mind. It's not hard to find a menu of suggestions upon which we can practice our listening for an interior nudge. It's easy to get the list. What's harder is actually discerning which of the things on the list are ours. This is for me, and this is for now. I'll put up a few in a minute. But again, the menu from which to choose, that's not the hard part. The hard part, the part that takes focus and attention, is discerning of those things, which one is for me and for now. So that's why we practice the art of discernment. And that's why, to help us, we practice the two-step dance of the spiritual journey. Desire and pay attention, desire and pay attention. It's a dance that helps us determine what our one thing is, what our inner voice thing is, what our one thing is. This is for me, this is for now, this is how I work on becoming a better friend. Now, let's say we do that and we've discerned our one thing. This is the thing I'm going to work on. I'm going to work on listening, or I'm going to work on compassion, or this is my thing. No surprise, we're going to also need a plan for that. A plan to help us do our one thing. But the thing I want to highlight from Matthew's story, the other thing I want to highlight from Matthew's story, is that a plan is important. But a plan is not the most important thing that Matthew did. The plan is good, but probably not for the reason Matthew thinks it's good. Here's what I expect is going to happen next with Matthew. I've seen it in my own life, and I have seen it in many lives as I have been watching how this spiritual journey unfolds. He's going to start working his plan. He's going to go and visit that list twice a week. He put it on the calendar. He's got the reminders in place. He makes sure that he does one thing in the weekdays and one thing in the weekend. And again, that's going to help. But I suspect he'll get the most benefit because of what the plan does. What the plan does is keep him focused and keep him paying attention. And because he is paying attention, I suspect he's going to see things that were always there, but that he had not been seeing. That's what desire, pay attention does. We galvanize our desire for something. Maybe we galvanize desire by praying a prayer, or by a journal entry, or by making a list, or by talking about it, and potentially in the course of a conversation, we hear ourselves say something, and we realize that's important. We stop the conversation, we say, hold on a minute, we write it down. Some way we galvanize our desire, some way we heighten that deep desire in our own awareness. This thing, this is for me, this is for now. There's a whole bunch of wisdom out there, a whole bunch of good ideas out there. The discernment process to say, this one for me, this one for now. So step one, we galvanize our desire in the first of the two steps in the dance. The second step of the dance is we watch and we pay attention. And when we do watch and when we do pay attention, a thing happens frequently enough that we actually have a name for it. The word is synchronicities. It was coined by Carl Jung to describe a psychological phenomenon. Some would call it a spiritual experience. It's a thing that just happens. When we are in a heightened state of paying attention, we notice stuff. Stuff that may have always been there, but now we notice. Meaningful coincidences, coincidental events that take on rich meaning because we're paying attention. Something happens in the external world, and we see the rich meaning in that thing that happened in the external world because there's also something going on in our own internal worlds. And that's what practicing the two-step dance of the spiritual journey does for us all the time. It exposes us to, makes us alert to synchronicities or meaningful coincidences. Those things, over time, start to get kind of normal. So back when, you could watch TV on a handheld device with a little antenna. We could watch the ACC tournament. We could, this isn't time for that yet. We're going to keep Carl up there. Yeah. We could watch the ACC tournament in March Madness by just a little device, and it had a little metal antenna. You swayed it around, and you could just sit there at your desk while you're at work, and you could watch that stuff. Back in the day, I don't know if it's still true, but it used to happen on WRAL. Maybe they still are. I haven't watched it in several years. But I started using that as a metaphor for this concept of synchronicities. So I would say something like, WRAL is in this room right now, always and everywhere. But with no portable device in your hand, you would never know. That's what desire and pay attention is for us. It's like a portable device in your hand. And when we experience a synchronicity, it's because we are now paying attention. Now, it happens often enough, and it has happened for enough people that it's become a thing that people talk about. And when that happens, and they talk about it, one of the primary things they say is, this was magical. It was magical. Oh my God, the thing that I needed, it just showed up. The thing that pointed me to the next place I needed to go, it just showed up. The resources that I had to have to be able to do the next thing, it just showed up. Magic. Or, I've come to think of these experiences that I've gotten older, those are things that were always there, like the divine is always here, like love is always here, like grace and mercy and goodness are always here, like virtue, it's always here. But when we start paying attention, we see how those things integrate with our lives in a very material, tangible way right now. When we don't pay attention, those things are there, but they are unseen, and they are unregistered, and they are unintegrated into our lives. They are present, but they are not seen. So here's what I expect is going to happen with Matthew. I expect that his plan is going to help. It will. Doing the things on his list, maybe expose him to some people, maybe start some friendships. Maybe that's going to happen. But I think probably more what's going to happen is stuff that he can't plan for. Because you can't plan for synchronicities. You can't plan for the coincidences that show up, that are experiences that are packed with meaning. Those things just happen. But they happen because we're paying attention. They happen because we're doing the two-step dance. Now, because these synchronicities things are a thing, because people do talk about them, we kind of know that when they do happen, people often will attribute these experiences to the universe. or to God, or to Jung's collective unconscious. Other people will attribute them to confirmation bias, or to coincidence, or to our own projection onto experience. And the thing is, yes. Yes, God. Yes, universe. Yes, collective unconscious, because we really don't know what those words mean anyway. And yes, coincidence. And yes, projection. But also, magic. But also, meaning. But also, a way forward. But also, a confirmation of interior knowing. But also, a way to go for the next step. And then the next step. And then the next step after that. And also deeper connection, also deeper belonging, and also deeper encouragement, and perhaps better decisions. So, yes, in the realm of mystery, we don't have to define these things so that we can then fight with each other over whether you're right or wrong. What we want to do is experience these things so that we are awakened to the deeper experiences that are available to us. And we do that when we galvanize some inner voice desire, and then we do that galvanizing against the current of social instincts like Western individualism and like workism that's emerged, and against the current social or familial expectations that we carry in our brains, against our own interior narratives. Go against that current about what good people should do or how good people should live. We galvanize some deep inner voice desire, and then we pay attention. And when we do, stuff shows up. WRL, who knew? It's always there. So, there's a really good chance that Matthew will develop a network of spiritual friends. And he will thrive in that environment. Because he will receive feedback from his friends. He will see his own mind more clearly because he'll get feedback from them. He will deepen his empathy more. That happens in friendships. He will learn to accept more and communicate more effectively, become a better listener. And he'll probably make another plan, a menu to help him discern what is his do this thing. And then he'll figure out how he's going to work on that over time. He'll start a list. He'll probably use GPT again. And on that list will be words like these: honest, authentic, open, being vulnerable. These are ways that we work on becoming better friends, allowing himself to be seen more clearly, not withholding himself. Perhaps that'll be on his list of things to consider. Reliable might be on his list, being careful with his yeses. But if he does say yes, making sure that he follows through on that yes. And acting as an initiator as well as a responder. That's a sticky point because, again, when am I going to do this? When do I have the time? When do I have the bandwidth? Remember what I've been saying here, now small, doable. But when he does initiate, recognizing that that initiation says, yes, this is important, and yes, you are important. On his list, maybe learning to suspend my thoughts, and especially my words, and especially if my thoughts and my words usually come with the form, you should. This is what you should do. If he learns to suspend that and practice being fully present and simply listening without inserting an agenda, maybe that will be on his list. That one's huge, by the way. Maybe on his list would be the word supportive, or patient, gracious, merciful, really. Wait. Now I got two things in one hand. Understanding. Turns out understanding often happens when we practice listening better. We find ourselves more able to insert ourselves into an understanding that comes from another's perspective. Grateful might be on his list. Boundaries might be on his list. That's an important part of friendships. Being able to respect other people's boundaries, but also being able to set our own boundaries. And then talking about what those boundaries are and talking about why they're there. Empathetic might be on his list. Yeah. It's not hard to know what the things are that make us better friends. Pretty straightforward coming up with a list. You can get a better list than that in about 5 minutes online. That's not the challenge. The challenge is where we focus. The challenge is what we do next. The challenge is participating in neural connection changing, habit building, doing. That's where the challenge comes in. The challenge comes in practicing over time, listening. Practicing over time, not saying the words, but instead seeking first to understand. The challenge is in practicing bringing our attention back when it wanders, bringing our attention back to the person before us that we are working on befriending when we really have 7 things that we would like to say that would really make this conversation much more interesting if I said them. Listening effectively to a friend. It's the practicing over time of authenticity, telling the stuff that I typically edit out, and then watching to see how safely I am received so that I can potentially risk even more. The practice of patience over time, the practice of empathy over time. It's the practice over time that creates the magical inner transformation that becoming better friends works in us. Now, I know you people, and I know the lives we are living, and I know that what I'm talking about today is overwhelming. How in the hell am I going to do that and do it consistently on top of it being a thing I already can't imagine how I could possibly do? But here's the thing. I've watched a lot of Matthews come and be part of the community through the years, and I watched them as they walk through the door, unable to imagine that they could possibly practice what is required to live in authentic spiritual community. Nobody comes in the door thinking, I've got extra time, I've got extra bandwidth, this is what I'm looking for. But then they do the 2-step dance. And sure enough, they begin to be alerted to one of the deepest desires that human beings have, a deep way for human beings to be that is authentic and spiritual and communal. And they begin to understand this is part of what I am as a human, wired to live in the context of a network of spiritual friendships. And as that desire begins to crystallize, and as they start paying attention, things that they could not plan for, things that they could not imagine, things that unfold as a shifting of schedules, as a shifting of priorities produces a shifting of schedules, stuff happens. Magic happens. And it turns out people often find themselves able to do what they couldn't imagine they could do if they practice the 2-step dance of discernment. And so, may I suggest the 2-step dance? In Dwelling Divine, may we become discerners. May we become desire and pay attention-ers. And may we become better friends and be transformed in the process. Amen. Okay, a couple things. You're standing up. You going to say something?
I am standing up because I believe this is a room full of Doug's friends, and he's got some very good friends online, and you may not know that today is his birthday. So Joe is going to lead us in singing to our friend Doug.
Let's sing one more song.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Doug. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. I want you to know that's the second birthday song I've received today. Gene, sing the other one.
This is your birthday song. It doesn't last too long. Hey! I thought I wasn't planning on that. What do we do next? Oh, yes, here we go. So a couple things as we are dismissing those of you who are online.
First of all, we do What Are You Thinking on Zoom right after. We're going to do it in the room. We'd like you to do that. If you do, you'll find the link in the notes right underneath YouTube. You'll also need a password. The password is 1417. But the second thing I want to note is that we've been kind of observing that not a lot of you, or not a big percentage of you all watch live. So you're not here at 11:09 on Sunday morning. So for you, the time shifters, we are trying to figure out how to create authentic spiritual community online. Thing is, we know how to do that. We've been doing it for a while. We got really good at it during the pandemic. What we haven't done very well is invite people to it. We haven't let you know the ways in which you can connect online. So we've gathered a team, and you will find now that there's a second link in the YouTube notes that says, find out about online community. And if you will click that, we're going to let you know what we're doing. We're going to let you know what's coming up. We're going to let you know how you could participate, because we have found you actually can make a very meaningful, authentic spiritual community and do it in an online way. So right now, if you're live, What Are You Thinking on Zoom? Online community, you can find out what's happening later. Let's dismiss the folks who are online. If you would, please put your hand on your heart. Remembering as we go that we are, every one of us, carriers of the indwelling divine. Love and joy and peace and kindness and goodness, they're in us. The fruit of the Spirit is within us. And if you would extend your other hand to our city, and let's look this week for opportunities to share what's already in us with the people that we live and work, go to school with, looking for opportunities to repair and heal our worlds. Amen. You all are dismissed. Thank you all for joining us. And those of you in the room, so friendships do this transformative thing in our lives. What are you thinking about? What's stirring up in your heart? This is your birthday song. It doesn't last too long. Hey.
Hello, I'm Morgan. So I've never been super great about reaching out to people and making connections. And then about a year ago, I started trying to be more intentional about that in this community, and just sending out texts, talking to people, let's get something on the books, you know, really, and not just, oh yeah, we're going to do it, but okay, let's do it right now. Get out your phone, you know, just be really insistent that you get it on the books. But, and then things started to happen, started to feel a lot closer